And I speak from a perspective of somebody that's been involved in the NGO space in and around Makhanda for a number of years, in partnership with the university throughout those years. So for me, the dependency phase, from my perspective, it was characterized by huge focus on the university as a solutions provider. Again, referring back to our history of a divide of the privileged and the not so privileged. The university always occupied a space of affluence, privilege, limitless resources. So it was easy to fall back to that position of, now that we are intentionally engaging, and now that we have a university that is a big asset to the community, and a university that is very much aware of the challenges of the community, in determining how we move forward, how it began was in just looking up to the university and saying, how can you best help us? And the university being aware of how it is positioned within the community, using that approach of helping in terms of the university providing and us as communities receiving. And I believe this came from a very well-intentioned space, but what it did is that it created this cycle of dependency. When our communities, even though we recognize that there was the need to do things differently so that we can see the necessary shifts that we wanted to see in our communities as we address the challenges that plague us, but we could not really be in a space where we could say that we can rely on ourselves, because this helping approach was creating this pool of beneficiaries in the form of community structures, NGOs, and the question now was, how sustainable could this be? Because we could not perpetually be stuck in a deficit mindset of, if we don't have enough, it can only make sense if the university comes and rescues us. So at some point, there was a recognition of the fact that we were stuck with all the resources and the goodwill, and the coming together of the university and the communities. It didn't feel like we were covering much ground. So there was a dialogue that was organized by Rhodes University with community partners present to say, what is it that is not happening? What is it that can be done better? And it is from that dialogue that we recognize, all of us, that we cannot use this helping approach in trying to bring about the change that we want to see. Then the question was, how do we improve on this relationship so that it moves us towards these desired outcomes? And then as we moved, we entered into what I have called the community strengthening phase. So this was a phase whereby, as communities, we recognized that there was a need to look within and to look around us to see how we could best leverage what we already have so that we can be able to address our own challenges in ways that make sense to us. And of course, this was driven by the partnership with the universities in terms of what kind of training can we get, who was going to run the training, how many people are going to participate in the training, and how are we going to move forward in meaningful ways that we're going to reflect the change that we are all working towards. And there were a lot of us that became part of this asset ABCD. Yes, I will remember it when it's substance related. Asset-based community development approach, yes. And so this was the movement that started looking into how do you build or develop community capacities so that we can be actively involved in seeking for solutions to our own problems. How do you build people with problem-solving capacities? And how do you then promote community-led solutions so that people can be able to take ownership of the work that is being done, and so that people can feel like they are capable of sustaining such solutions with or without the support of external parties. And then from there, again, we moved into what I term the collaborative phase. So the collaborative phase was a pretty exciting one because it emanated from a recognition of the fact that the challenges that we face as a community, they are complex, interconnected, and you need more than the intervention of one entity to be able to solve them. So then looking at what we have in Makhanda, it's not just communities, as I've already mentioned, it's a university city, there is a lot of students in Makhanda. So how do we then come together collectively to see how we can be able to leverage all of this so that we are able to come together with co-created solutions for the complex challenges that we face as a community. This is where community-based participatory research emerged. And this was a very exciting period for us, and I think we're still caught up in that excitement to say that there is a way in which we can co-create knowledge together with the university. We can co-create knowledge in ways that make sense to both parties. We can all look for knowledge that just doesn't stay in books and papers at the university and gather stars, but knowledge that can be actionable and lead us towards what we envisage as communities to be something that we want to see happening in our spaces. And to further strengthen this, there was training organized for community partners so that everybody understands what this community-based participatory research is. And there was a question posed to the community partners to say, is it something that you want to be part of? Does it make sense for you? And of course, after deliberating on it alone by ourselves, we decided that yes, it is something that would make total sense to us, because then it gives us a voice in terms of what are the challenges that we see ourselves. We come up with our own problem statements now, and then we seek for the support that we need from the university. And the university has been very intentional in how they partner academics, potential research partners in the community, and inviting us into the space of Rhodes University Community Engagement to say, what are the potential research questions that you have, and how can we help you? Who do you want to partner with? And what does that partnership look like, and what you're going to need to make it happen? So that has been exciting for us in terms of just making communities feel as though their voices matter, and that the knowledge that we hold is knowledge that can be used in ways that we can recognize and own and kind of like sustain even moving forward. The other thing that has happened in the collaborative phase is the creation of joint reflection spaces, where we are able to formulate place-based strategies. And it looks like communities of practice that will include community members or different sectors of society, where people who are like-minded and are interested in similar topics can come together and co-create solutions, and where skills sharing can happen, and where people can be able to identify potential collaborations outside of their limited spaces to say, if I collaborate with you and you, then maybe we can be able to do something bigger and kind of like move faster in working towards what we all want to see. And at the heart of all of this is this desire for collective action towards social and economic impact. So it is the partnership between the university and the communities is a partnership that is driven by shared values and a shared desire for empowering our communities and for seeing transformation in our city. And this requires collective action so that the social ills that we are dealing with, we can be able to address them as a collective, bringing together different skills, different knowledges, and different capacities. And also to have the kind of impact that we need in terms of improving the lives of our people in our communities. And the university has been very intentional also in making sure that they create pathways for children from the community who are interested in accessing the university to be able to go to Rhodes University. And that has huge impact if you think about socially what it means for families who have kids who can now go to university and maybe they are first graduates in their families. Also, economically, when those kids are able to then have jobs and take care of their families and take up the education responsibilities of their siblings and so on and so forth. So the collaborative phase is what we are busy with right now, trying to see what can we do as a collective so that we can deepen the impact of the work that we are doing in our city. Looking at the barriers, it's not been an easy journey. So we've had to, and I think like this is familiar for many in South Africa, we've had to grapple with issues of power, privilege, and mistrust. So if you are dealing with a formerly segregated society, previously segregated society, of course there will be issues of power, not just power along the haves and the have-nots, but power also that comes with people being more educated than others. Power that comes from people coming from the university as academics, where we looked up to academics as people that are experts in everything, that have to be listened to, that will kind of like, take us to the promised land. But now we need to forge strong partnerships. So those issues of power are issues that we have to be constantly aware of and to address as they come up. And also there are issues of privilege and mistrust. And the privilege is not just across racial lines. It is privilege in the sense that when you have learners that become students at universities, there is a certain way that they become socialized, and they need to be aware of the fact that socialization, maybe when they go back to their communities, they might be looked upon as different or as better. Then how do you then go back to the same communities and contribute in meaningful ways if you are not aware now of the change in your circumstances and the power that people might perceive you to be having or holding? And the mistrust is from the fact that there has been traditional ways of doing things before, where in this partnership between communities and universities, the universities had all the power. And we cannot pretend like that was not the case before. And it's taken a lot of conversations, it's taken a lot of just being very open about where we come from in this partnership so that people can deal with that mistrust of what is the hidden agenda, why now wanting to work together, why now wanting this partnership, and also to just be aware that it is work in progress, it is a journey, it's not something that's going to be magically happening. It requires full commitment from all parties that are involved in this partnership. The other area was lack of clarity in engagement. The thing that says that if now you are collaborating and you are partnering, you need to be very transparent in terms of what it is that you are trying to do. If it is a research project, be transparent in terms of why do you want to do the research for both parties, what do you want to get out of this research process, what is it going to require for everybody to feel like they're actively participating in the process, so as to kind of like avoid any feelings of somebody being more powerful than the other. So that clarity is something also that needed to be negotiated and to keep being brought up again and again in terms of, can we just be clear on what everybody is looking for from these partnerships, from these engagements. Also, there still is, I think, a reluctance to address elephants in rooms, in the sense that since we are a people that have got a very controversial history, there is anger there somewhere. There has been run-ins before, and there might be a reluctance to engage in ways that are meaningful and productive. And these are the things that might benefit from open conversations. These are the things that might benefit from being spoken about fully. But then it is not an easy exercise, because on the one hand, you will have people that are sitting with memories of what it was like to be oppressed, to be dispossessed. And then you're in the same space as people who are willing and aware of our past history and their privilege, but want to forge forward and might not want to dwell so much on what happened in the past and how it happened. But these are some things that maybe might benefit from being addressed so that they stop being questions at the back of people's minds. And the resistance to change it's resistant to change from my perspective from both sides, in the sense that I'm looking at the time, in the sense that when you, as a community partner, when I'm with other community partners, of course we will address issues of can we trust is genuine, what is it that we're going to be hit with when we are not expecting. But on the other side also, I see how the university is really trying to change and how it is a process. And now for the longest time, even from university spaces, there are ways in which certain things have been done, and that it is a process for all parties involved of learning and unlearning and learning again continuously. So those are the barriers and the enablers. So all of us, we are people of Makhanda. We have the best interests of this city at heart, and we are committed to putting in the work that is required to make sure that the city works. So the shared contextual concerns are what enable us to be able to forge ahead despite the difficulties, and the sense of reciprocity. And to a big extent, this I can be accredited to Rhodes also for always having been, as far as my experience goes, an open university that is accessible to all, with the open door policy of listening and wanting to assist. So there is a sense of reciprocity in the relationship where volunteers can go into the communities and be able to assist with the work that is being done in the communities, where we have service learning happening in our communities, but at the same time, we are able to have community partners willing to work with university academics and in research projects. And there's also spaces that are intentionally created for continuous learning and reflection, which allows us to always learn from our mistake and do better. And there's commitment to sustained mutual benefit, understanding that all of us have got something that the other part can use and find of value, and that we are here to assist each other to be able to come up with those value points. And thank you very much.